A lost lunchbox, a gap-toothed smile, and a chance encounter on a rainy New York morning spark a life-altering bond between a struggling single mum and a billionaire CEO. But when ghosts from the past return, will love be enough? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. The alarm clock blared at 5 a.m. and Naomi Carter's hand shot out from under the worn comforter to silence it before it woke her daughter. She sat up and rubbed her eyes, feeling the familiar weight of exhaustion that never quite left her shoulders. "Another day," she whispered to herself as she swung her legs over the side of the bed. Naomi tiptoed to the small bedroom across the hall where 7-year-old Lena slept peacefully, her curly hair splayed across the pillow and her small chest rising and falling with each breath. For a moment, Naomi just watched her daughter sleep, drawing strength from the sight. "Baby girl." "Time to wake up," Naomi said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed and gently stroking Lena's cheek. Lena stirred and opened her eyes. "Is it morning already, Mommy?" "Yes, sweetheart, we need to get ready for school." Their small apartment in Queens was barely big enough for the two of them, but Naomi had done her best to make it a home. Photos of Lena lined the walls, her first day of kindergarten, her ballet recital, her gap-toothed smile after losing her first tooth. There were no pictures of Lena's father. He'd been gone since before she was born. In the kitchen, Naomi prepared breakfast while Lena got dressed. The routine was down to a science: cereal and fruit for Lena, coffee for Naomi. While they ate, Naomi checked the schedule on her phone. "I've got the catering job at lunch and then my shift at the restaurant tonight," she said, more to herself than to Lena. "Mrs. Davis will pick you up from after-school program. Can't you pick me up, Mommy?" Lena asked, her big brown eyes pleading. Naomi felt the familiar stab of guilt. "Not today, baby. Mommy has to work so we can pay for our apartment and your school." As she packed Lena's lunch, a peanut butter sandwich, apple slices, and a small chocolate cookie, Naomi slipped in a note with a heart drawn on it. She always included a little something to remind Lena that she was loved, even when they were apart. "Don't forget your raincoat." "The weather said it's going to rain today," Naomi reminded as they rushed out the door. The subway station was crowded, as it always was during the morning rush. Naomi held Lena's hand tightly as they navigated through the sea of commuters. The platform was packed with people in business suits, construction workers and other parents with children in tow. "Stay close to me," Naomi warned as they squeezed through the crowd. Just as the train pulled into the station, someone bumped into Naomi from behind. She stumbled forward, nearly losing her balance. In the confusion, she dropped her bag and its contents spilled onto the platform. "Sorry, ma'am," a man in a suit muttered, not even slowing down as he rushed to board the train. "It's fine," Naomi said, though he was already gone. She quickly gathered her things, making sure she had her wallet and phone. "Come on, Lena, we need to catch this train or you'll be late for school." They managed to squeeze into the crowded car just before the doors closed. It wasn't until they were 3 stops away that Naomi realized something was missing. "Lena, where's your lunchbox?" Lena's eyes widened in alarm. "I don't know, you were holding it." Naomi's heart sank. She must have dropped it when that man bumped into her. She couldn't afford to buy Lena lunch at school today, not with rent due next week. "It's okay," she said, trying to hide her frustration. "I'll figure something out." Lena's eyes filled with tears. She knew what that meant. They didn't have extra money for things like school lunch. "Don't cry, baby," Naomi said, kneeling down to wipe away a tear that had escaped. "Mommy will take care of it." When they arrived at Lena's school, Naomi spoke quietly to the teacher, explaining the situation. The teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, a kind woman who had known Naomi since Lena started first grade, nodded understandingly. "Don't worry, Naomi, Lena can share my lunch today." Naomi thanked her, fighting back tears of gratitude. It was these small kindnesses that kept her going. "Be good today," she told Lena, giving her a kiss on the forehead. "I love you." "Love you too, Mommy," Lena replied, her smile returning. As Naomi rushed to catch another train to get to her catering job, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was failing as a mother. Working 2 jobs meant she missed so much of Lena's life. But what choice did she have? Lena's father had never sent a dime in support, and Naomi's own family had turned their backs on her when she decided to keep the baby. Meanwhile, across town in a sleek high-rise building, Grant Ellison sat in his corner office, staring at the spreadsheet on his computer screen without really seeing it. At 32, he was the CEO of Elitech, a successful software company he had built from the ground up. His business acumen had made him millions, but money couldn't fill the emptiness he felt inside. Grant ran a hand through his dark hair, sighing as he checked his watch. Another meeting in 10 minutes. Another day of decisions and deals, and none of it meaning anything beyond the bottom line. His assistant, Mia, knocked on the door. "Your 10 o'clock is here, Mr. Ellison." "Thank you, Mia. Send them in." Before she could leave, he added, "And Mia, can you clear my schedule for lunch today? I need some air." She looked surprised. Grant never took lunch breaks, but nodded. "Of course, sir." Later that morning, Grant found himself walking through the crowded streets of New York, not really sure where he was going. The rain had started, a light drizzle that made the city seem somehow softer, less harsh. He ended up at the subway station, a place he rarely visited since he usually had his driver take him everywhere. As he descended the stairs, something caught his eye, a small lunchbox lying on the ground near the turnstiles. People hurried past, no one giving it a second glance. Grant picked it up, noticing a photo taped to the inside. It showed a little girl with curly hair and a bright smile, gap-toothed and genuine. There was a name written underneath, Lena Carter. Grant turned the lunchbox over, looking for any other identification. There was a school name embroidered on the back, PS 118 Queens. Something about that little girl's smile tugged at Grant. He thought about how upset she must be, missing her lunch. Without really understanding why, he found himself heading back up the stairs, lunchbox in hand. "Jenkins," he called his driver, "I need to go to PS 118 in Queens." The driver raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. It wasn't his place to question why his billionaire boss suddenly needed to visit an elementary school in Queens. At the school, Grant felt strangely out of place in his expensive suit. He approached the front desk, holding the lunchbox. "I found this on the subway," he explained to the receptionist. "It has a student's name in it, Lena Carter." The receptionist looked surprised. "That's very kind of you to bring it all the way here, sir. Lena is in Mrs. Rodriguez's class. I can have someone take it to her." "Actually," Grant said, surprising himself, "would it be possible for me to give it to her? I'd like to make sure she gets it." After some discussion and verification of the lunchbox, the receptionist agreed to call Mrs. Rodriguez. A few minutes later, a little girl appeared in the office, her eyes widening when she saw her lunchbox. "Is that mine?" she asked, her voice small but hopeful. Grant knelt down to her level. "Are you Lena?" She nodded. "Then yes, this is yours. I found it at the subway station this morning." Lena's face lit up with a smile that was even more radiant than the photo. "Thank you, mister. My mummy was so worried." Something about her innocent gratitude touched Grant deeply. "You're welcome, Lena. I'm glad I could help." Mrs. Rodriguez thanked him as well. "This was very thoughtful of you, Mr. Ellison." "Grant Ellison. Well, Mr. Ellison, I'm sure Lena's mother will be very grateful. She works so hard. And something like this would have been a real hardship for them." Grant nodded, feeling an unexpected connection to this little girl and her unseen mother. Would it be possible to let her mother know that the lunchbox was found? "I imagine she's worried." Mrs. Rodriguez hesitated, then nodded. "I can give you her number if you'd like to text her. I'm sure she'd appreciate hearing from the person who found it." Grant wasn't sure why, but he wanted to be the one to tell Lena's mother that everything was okay. He took the number and thanked the teacher. Back in his car, Grant stared at the number on his phone. What would he even say? This wasn't like him at all, getting personally involved in something so ordinary. But he couldn't get the image of that little girl's smile out of his head. Finally, he typed a simple message. "Hello, this is Grant Ellison. I found your daughter Lena's lunchbox at the subway station this morning and dropped it off at her school. She's all set now." He attached a photo of the lunchbox and hit send before he could overthink it. Across town, Naomi was in the middle of setting up for a corporate lunch when her phone buzzed. Seeing a text from an unknown number, she frowned but opened it anyway. When she read the message and saw the photo, Relief washed over her. She hadn't ruined Lena's day after all. But who was this Grant Ellison, and why would a complete stranger go out of his way to deliver a lost lunchbox? "Thank you so much," she texted back. "That was incredibly kind of you. Most people wouldn't bother." Grant's phone buzzed with the response, and he found himself smiling. "I'm glad I could help. Your daughter has a beautiful smile." Naomi hesitated before responding. "She's my whole world. Thank you again for your kindness." Something about the sincerity in those words touched Grant. Before he could respond, Mia called to remind him about an important afternoon meeting. Reality crashed back in. He was Grant Ellison, CEO, not some good Samaritan with time to spare. But as his car pulled away from the school, he couldn't help looking back at the building, thinking about the little girl named Lena and her mother, who worked so hard that a lost lunchbox could be a hardship. For the first time in longer than he could remember, Grant felt something stir inside him, an ache for connection, for something real in a life that had become all about the next deal, the next acquisition. He had no reason to ever see Lena or her mother again. And yet, as he headed back to his office, he couldn't shake the feeling that something important had just happened, something that might change everything. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. Back at her catering job, Naomi couldn't stop thinking about the stranger who had gone out of his way to help her daughter. In a city where people barely made eye contact, someone had taken the time to care. She looked at his text again, wondering about the man behind the words. Little did she know that across town, Grant was sitting in his meeting, completely distracted by thoughts of a woman he had never met and a little girl with a gap-toothed smile who had thanked him like he'd given her the world instead of just returning a lost lunchbox. Two lives that should never have intersected were now connected by a simple act of kindness. And in New York City, where millions of stories unfold every day, theirs was just beginning. 2 weeks had passed since the lunchbox incident, and Naomi had almost forgotten about the kind stranger named Grant Ellison. Almost, but not quite. His name would pop into her mind at odd moments, while she was serving plates at the restaurant or tucking Lena into bed. "Mommy, can I have a new book?" Lena asked one evening, as Naomi pulled the covers up to her chin. "Maybe next week, baby." "After I get paid," Naomi said, her heart aching at having to delay something so simple as a book for her daughter. Lena nodded, used to hearing these words. "That's okay. Mrs. Rodriguez let me borrow one from the class library." Naomi kissed her forehead. "I promise we'll get you your own soon. Now get some sleep." The next morning was Friday, which meant Naomi had to be at the catering company early to prep for a weekend wedding. She dropped Lena off at school half an hour before the bell. "Mrs. Rodriguez will be here soon," she told Lena, who was clutching her lunchbox tightly, determined not to lose it again. "Be good today, okay?" "I will," Lena promised. "Love you, Mommy." "Love you more, baby girl." As Naomi turned to leave, she nearly bumped into a tall man in a grey suit. She stepped back, about to apologize, when she looked up and met his eyes. There was something oddly familiar about him. "Sorry," she said quickly, moving to walk around him. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you Naomi Carter?" She stopped, instantly on guard. "Yes, do I know you?" The man smiled, and something about it softened his otherwise serious face. "I'm Grant Ellison. I found your daughter's lunchbox a couple of weeks ago." Recognition dawned on Naomi's face. "Oh, yes, of course. Thank you again for that. It was very kind of you." Up close, she could see he was handsome in a buttoned-up sort of way. Dark hair, neatly trimmed, strong jaw, and eyes that seemed to notice everything. His suit probably cost more than her monthly rent. "I was just dropping off some books for the school library," Grant explained, gesturing to the building. "My company is doing a literacy program with several schools in the area." "That's nice," Naomi said, unsure why he was telling her this. An awkward silence fell between them. Grant seemed to be searching for something else to say. "Well, I should get going," Naomi finally said, checking her watch. "I'm going to be late for work." "Of course," Grant nodded. "It was nice to meet you in person." "You too. Thanks again for helping with the lunchbox." As Naomi walked away, she could feel his eyes on her back. Something about the encounter left her unsettled. Why would a man like that clearly wealthy and important, remember her name or notice her at all. Later that day, during her break at the catering company, Naomi's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She opened it to find a message from Grant Ellison. "I hope you don't mind that I got your number from Mrs. Rodriguez. I saw your daughter looking at a book in the library this morning. I thought she might enjoy these." Attached was a photo of 3 children's books. Naomi stared at the screen, not sure how to respond. On one hand, it was a kind gesture. On the other, she didn't know this man, and she was wary of accepting gifts from strangers, especially rich ones who might expect something in return. "That's very thoughtful," she finally texted back, "but we're fine, thank you." Grant's response came quickly. "No strings attached, just saw an opportunity to share some good books. My mother was a teacher, and she always said every child deserves their own books." Naomi bit her lip, thinking about how Lena had just asked for a new book the night before. Still, her pride and protective instincts won out. "I appreciate the thought, but I can provide for my daughter." There was a longer pause before his next message. "Of course you can. I didn't mean to imply otherwise. I apologize if I overstepped." Naomi put her phone away, feeling both relieved and strangely disappointed. The man was just being nice and she'd shut him down, but she had learned the hard way that nothing in life came without a price. The following Monday, Naomi was running late for her restaurant shift when she got a call from Mrs. Rodriguez. "Naomi, I'm so sorry to bother you, but Lena isn't feeling well. She's running a fever and I think you should come pick her up." Panic shot through Naomi. "I'll be right there. Is she okay?" "She'll be fine, but she needs to go home and rest." Naomi called her manager at the restaurant, her stomach in knots. "Jerry, I'm so sorry, but my daughter is sick. I need to pick her up from school." Jerry's sigh was audible through the phone. "Naomi, this is the 3rd time this month you've had an emergency. I know and I'm sorry, but she's running a fever. Look, I need reliable people. If you can't make it in today, don't bother coming in tomorrow either." The line went dead. Naomi stood on the sidewalk, phone in hand, tears threatening to spill. She had just lost her restaurant job. How would she pay next month's rent? But there was no time to worry about that now. She rushed to the school, finding Lena in the nurse's office, her cheeks flushed and her eyes glassy with fever. "Oh, baby," Naomi said, gathering her daughter into her arms. "Let's get you home." As they were leaving, Mrs. Rodriguez pulled Naomi aside. "She should see a doctor. That fever came on suddenly." Naomi nodded, though she was already calculating how much a doctor's visit would cost, money she now didn't have. On the subway ride home, Lena leaned heavily against her, half asleep. Naomi pressed her lips to her daughter's forehead, feeling the heat radiating from her skin. It was definitely a high fever. At home, she gave Lena some children's Tylenol and tucked her into bed, promising to check on her soon. Then she sat at the kitchen table and put her head in her hands. What was she going to do? The catering job didn't pay enough on its own, and she had bills due next week. Her phone buzzed with a text from her friend Tasha, who worked at the restaurant. "Heard what happened. Jerry's a jerk. Let me know if you need anything." Naomi texted back a quick thanks, but pride kept her from asking for help. She had always managed on her own, and she would figure this out too. A soft cry from Lena's room had her rushing to check on her daughter. Lena was sitting up in bed looking miserable. "My throat hurts, Mommy," she whimpered. Naomi felt her forehead again. The fever hadn't gone down. "I think we need to take you to the doctor, sweetie." At the urgent care clinic, they waited for 2 hours before a doctor could see Lena. The diagnosis was strep throat, requiring antibiotics that cost more than Naomi had budgeted for the week. "She'll need to stay home from school for at least 2 days, the doctor added, "until the fever breaks, and she's been on antibiotics for 24 hours. Naomi nodded, trying to hide her panic. How would she work at the catering company if Lena had to stay home? It was nearly 8 o'clock by the time they got back to the apartment. Lena had fallen asleep on the subway, and Naomi carried her up the 3 flights of stairs, her arms aching by the time they reached their door. She settled Lena in bed with the first dose of antibiotics and a glass of water, then collapsed onto the couch, exhaustion and worry overwhelming her. She checked her phone and found 3 missed calls from the catering company. Her heart sank. Had she lost that job too? She called back, bracing herself for more bad news. "Naomi, where were you today?" her supervisor Maria asked when she answered. "We had the Jefferson wedding prep, and you were supposed to be here at 4. "I'm so sorry, Maria. My daughter got sick at school and I had to pick her up. She has strep throat and I had to take her to the doctor." There was a pause on the other end. "Is she okay?" "She will be, but she needs to stay home from school for a couple of days, and I just lost my other job because I had to leave." Her voice broke, and she struggled to regain her composure. Maria's tone softened. "Look, the wedding is this weekend and we really need you. Can you find someone to watch Lena on Saturday?" "I'll figure something out," Naomi promised, though she had no idea who she could ask. After hanging up, she checked on Lena, who was finally sleeping peacefully. Naomi gently brushed a curl from her daughter's forehead, her heart full of love and fear. She would do anything to keep Lena safe and cared for, but the weight of doing it all alone sometimes felt crushing. The next morning, Naomi woke up to find that Lena's fever had broken. She was still tired and her throat was sore, but she was well enough to sit on the couch with her coloring books, while Naomi made calls trying to find a babysitter for Saturday. None of her usual backup sitters were available, and she was about to give up when her phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Rodriguez, just checking how Lena is feeling today. Also, Mr. Ellison came by again with more books for the library and asked about her. "I hope you don't mind that I mentioned she was homesick." Naomi frowned at the message. Why would Grant Ellison be asking about Lena? Before she could respond, another text came in. This one from Grant himself. "Mrs. Rodriguez mentioned Lena is sick. I hope she's feeling better soon. If there's anything you need, please don't hesitate to ask." Naomi stared at the message. Her first instinct was to politely brush him off again, but desperation made her pause. Maybe... No, she couldn't. Ask a stranger for help. She typed a simple reply. "She's doing better today, thank you for asking." A few minutes later, her phone rang. It was Grant. "Hello?" she answered hesitantly. "Naomi, hi, it's Grant Ellison. I hope I'm not bothering you, but I wanted to check in about Lena." Mrs. Rodriguez seemed worried. That's very kind of you, but we're managing." There was a pause. "I don't mean to overstep, but you sound stressed. Is there something I can help with?" Naomi almost laughed. "Where to begin?" "No, really, we're fine." Naomi, his voice, was gentle but firm. "I understand pride, believe me, but sometimes it's okay to accept help when it's offered without strings." She sighed, glancing at Lena, who was focused on her coloring. "I lost my restaurant job yesterday because I had to pick her up from school, and now I need to find someone to watch her on Saturday when I work a catering event, but everyone I know is busy." "I could watch her," Grant offered, surprising even himself. "What? No, I couldn't ask you to do that. You don't even know us. I know Lena is a sweet girl who likes books and has a mum who works incredibly hard. Look, I don't have much experience with kids, but I can read stories and make sure she's safe for a few hours." Naomi was speechless. This man, this CEO, who probably had better things to do on a Saturday, was offering to babysit her daughter. "Why would you do that?" she finally asked. There was a long pause. "Because when I found that lunchbox, I saw the photo of Lena smiling, and it reminded me that there are more important things in life than boardrooms and business deals. And honestly, I could use a break from my regular life." Naomi didn't know what to say. Every instinct told her to refuse, to protect her little family from outsiders. But she was out of options, and something about Grant's voice seemed sincere. "Let me think about it," she said finally. "I appreciate the offer, but I need to be careful about who I leave my daughter with." "Of course," Grant replied. "You could check my background if that would help. I'm pretty Googleable." That made her smile despite herself. "I'll let you know. And thank you her for caring." After they hung up, Naomi did exactly what he suggested. She Googled Grant Ellison. The search returned thousands of results. CEO of Elitech, a tech company worth billions, photos of him at charity events and business conferences, articles about his innovative approach to software development. There was nothing suspicious, nothing to suggest he was anything other than what he appeared to be, a successful businessman with an unexpected kind streak. Later that evening, after much deliberation, Naomi texted him, If you're serious about Saturday, I'd like to meet beforehand to discuss it. Lena's safety is my priority. His response was immediate. Absolutely. Name the time and place. As she put her phone down, Naomi wondered if she was making a huge mistake. She had built walls around herself and Lena for years, keeping people at a distance to avoid getting hurt again. Why was she even considering letting this stranger in? But as she looked at her daughter, peacefully sleeping in her small bed, she knew the answer. Because sometimes being strong meant acknowledging you couldn't do everything alone. And maybe, just maybe, there were still good people in the world worth trusting. What she didn't know was that across town, Grant Ellison was sitting in his penthouse apartment, wondering what had possessed him to offer to babysit a 7-year-old. He knew nothing about children. His life was organized, predictable, controlled. Everything a day with a child was not. Yet when he thought about Naomi's voice, tired but determined, something in him had responded. He wanted to help her, to see her smile, to know more about this woman who worked so hard and asked for so little. For the first time in years, Grant was thinking about someone other than himself. And it felt strangely, wonderfully right. Friday afternoon, Naomi sat nervously at a small coffee shop near Lena's school, checking her watch every few minutes. She had agreed to meet Grant here to discuss his offer to watch Lena tomorrow. Lena was still at school. Her fever gone, she'd been well enough to return for the last day of the week. The bell above the door jingled, and Grant walked in, scanning the room until he spotted her. He was dressed more casually than she'd seen before. Dark jeans and a blue button-down shirt instead of a suit. It made him look more approachable, less like the CEO his Google search had revealed. Naomi. He greeted her with a smile, sliding into the chair across from her. Thanks for meeting me. Thanks for coming, she replied, suddenly feeling self-conscious in her simple work clothes. I appreciate you being willing to discuss this before I make any decisions about tomorrow. Grant nodded. I understand. If someone offered to watch my child, I'd want to vet them thoroughly too. A waitress came by, and Grant ordered a black coffee. When she left, he turned his attention back to Naomi. So, what would you like to know about me? Naomi had prepared. For this, making a mental list of questions. Why are you really offering to help us? We're strangers to you. Grant considered this, his expression thoughtful. The honest answer? I'm not entirely sure myself. When I found Lena's lunchbox, I could have just turned it in at the school office. But something about that photo of her, she looked so happy, so innocent. It made me want to make sure she got it back personally. He took a breath before continuing. And then when I met you, I saw how hard you work, how much you care about your daughter. It made me realize that my life, for all its success, is missing something important. So we're what? A charity case? A way for you to feel good about yourself? Naomi couldn't keep the edge from her voice. Grant's eyes widened. No, not at all. I'm sorry if it came across that way. He leaned forward, his expression earnest. Look, my whole life has been about achievement. Building my company, making money, impressing people who, frankly, I don't even like. Meeting you and Lena reminded me that there's more to life than that. Naomi studied his face, trying to detect any sign of insincerity. I don't need saving, Mr. Ellison. Grant, please, he corrected gently. And I never thought you did. If anything, I think maybe I'm the one who needed, I don't know, a reminder of what really matters. The waitress returned with his coffee, giving Naomi a moment to process. His words, they didn't sound like lines, and his eyes held none of the calculation she'd seen in other men who had tried to get close to her. Do you have any experience with children? She asked, moving to her next question. Grant smiled ruefully. Not much, I admit. No siblings, no nieces or nephews. But I'm a quick learner, and I promise I'd follow your instructions to the letter. Lena can be shy with new people, Naomi warned. And she has a routine she likes to follow. I'd respect that, Grant assured her. I may not know much about kids, but I understand the importance of routines. They talked for nearly an hour, with Naomi asking about everything from his medical knowledge, I know CPR and basic first aid, to his cooking abilities. I can manage sandwiches and pasta, nothing fancy, to whether he had any pets that might scare Lena, just a fish named Pixel. By the time they needed to leave to pick up Lena from school, Naomi had to admit that Grant seemed genuinely kind and trustworthy. Still, she hesitated. "I'd like Lena to meet you first before I decide about tomorrow," she said as they walked toward the school. "Of course," Grant agreed. "That makes perfect sense." At the school, they waited outside with the other parents. When the bell rang and children began pouring out, Naomi spotted Lena immediately. Her daughter's face lit up when she saw her, then turned curious as she noticed Grant. "Mommy." Lena ran to Naomi, who caught her in a hug. "Hi, sweetheart. How was school today?" "Good. I got a gold star for my math worksheet." Lena's eyes kept darting to Grant, who stood a respectful distance away. "That's wonderful," Naomi said, then gestured to Grant. "Lena, this is Mr. Ellison. He's the one who found your lunchbox a few weeks ago." Lena's eyes widened in recognition. "You're the lunchbox man," Grant chuckled, kneeling down to Lena's level. "That's me. It's nice to officially meet you, Lena." "Your mom tells me you like books." Lena nodded eagerly. "I love books. Mrs. Rodriguez reads us a new one every day at story time." "What's your favorite book?" Grant asked. "Charlotte's Web," Lena answered without hesitation. "It's about a pig named Wilbur and his friend Charlotte, who's a spider." "That's a great book," Grant said, smiling. "I read it when I was about your age too." Lena seemed pleased by this connection. "Do you like to read?" "I do," Grant replied. "When I was little, books were my best friends." Naomi watched their interaction closely. Lena, usually reserved with strangers, was warming up to Grant quickly. And Grant, despite his admitted inexperience with children, was treating Lena with respect, not talking down to her as many adults did. "Mr. Ellison might spend some time with you tomorrow while I'm at work," Naomi said carefully, gauging Lena's reaction. "How would you feel about that?" Lena considered this, looking Grant over once more. "Would you read to me?" "I'd be happy to," Grant promised. "Okay," Lena decided, as if that settled everything. As they walked back to the subway station, Lena chatted happily about school, while Naomi and Grant exchanged occasional glances over her head. By the time they reached the entrance, Naomi had made her decision. "If you're still willing, I'd appreciate your help tomorrow," she told Grant. "My shift is from noon to 8. Relief and something like happiness crossed Grant's face. "I'll be there. What time should I arrive?" They worked out the details, and Grant insisted on getting Naomi's address so he could come directly to their apartment. "It'll be easier than meeting somewhere with Lena in tow," he pointed out. Naomi hesitated, but ultimately agreed. As they were about to part ways, Grant suddenly remembered something. "Oh, I almost forgot." He reached into his messenger bag and pulled out a small paper bag. "I thought Lena might enjoy these." Inside were 3 books, Charlotte's Web, which Lena had just mentioned, and 2 others that looked new but age-appropriate. "I can't accept these," Naomi started to say, but Lena was already exclaiming in delight. "Charlotte's Web, my very own copy." She hugged the book to her chest, looking up at Grant with shining eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Ellison." Faced with her daughter's joy, Naomi couldn't bring herself to refuse the gift. "Thank you," she said softly to Grant. "That was thoughtful." He smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "I'll see you both tomorrow." As Naomi and Lena rode the subway home, Lena clutched her new books, occasionally opening Charlotte's Web to admire the illustrations. "I like Mr. Ellison," she announced. "He's nice." "Yes, he seems to be," Naomi agreed cautiously. "Is he going to be your boyfriend?" Lena asked with the directness only a child could manage. Naomi nearly choked. "What? No, honey. He's just being kind, helping us out." Lena shrugged, apparently unconcerned. "Tommy at school says his mom has a boyfriend, and he takes Tommy to the park and buys him ice cream." "Well, Mr. Ellison is not my boyfriend," Naomi said firmly. "He's just a new friend." But as they walked from the subway to their apartment building, Naomi couldn't help wondering about Grant's motives. Men like him, wealthy, successful, handsome, didn't typically spend their Saturdays babysitting for single mothers they barely knew. Was he interested in her romantically? The thought both thrilled and terrified her. The next morning, Naomi was up early, cleaning their small apartment and preparing for Grant's arrival. She left detailed instructions on the kitchen counter, emergency numbers, Lena's schedule, what she could eat, which shows she was allowed to watch. Lena was excited, sitting by the window watching for Grant. Is he coming soon? He'll be here at 11:30, Naomi reminded her for the third time. I need to leave by 11:45 to make it to work on time. At precisely 11:30, there was a knock at the door. Naomi smoothed her uniform, a black skirt, and white blouse for the catering company, and went to answer it. Grant stood in the hallway looking slightly nervous but smiling. He wore jeans and a casual sweater, and he carried a small backpack. Right on time, Naomi said, stepping back, to let him in. I try not to keep people waiting, he replied, then spotted Lena. Hi there. Hi, Mr. Ellison. Lena bounced over. I've been reading Charlotte's Web. I'm on chapter 3. That's great, he said, then turned to Naomi. Thank you for trusting me with this. I promise I'll take good care of her. Naomi nodded, suddenly anxious about leaving. I left instructions on the counter. My number's at the top if you need anything at all. We'll be fine, Grant assured her. Right, Lena. Lena nodded confidently. I'll show Mr. Ellison where everything is, Mommy. Naomi kissed Lena goodbye, gathered her things, and with one last look at her daughter standing next to the tall, elegant man who had somehow entered their lives, she left for work. Throughout her shift, Naomi checked her phone constantly, but there were no emergency calls. Grant sent a few text updates, a photo of Lena reading, a message saying they'd had lunch, another saying they were playing a board game Lena had taught him. By the time Naomi finished her shift and hurried home, she was both exhausted and anxious to see how things had gone. She opened the door to find her apartment tidier than she'd left it, with the smell of something delicious in the air. Grant was in the kitchen, and Lena was setting the table with their mismatched plates. Mommy's home, Lena exclaimed, running to hug her. What's all this? Naomi asked, looking from the set table to Grant, who was stirring something on the stove. We made dinner, Lena announced proudly. Mr. Ellison showed me how to make spaghetti sauce from scratch. I hope that's okay, Grant said, looking suddenly uncertain. Lena mentioned you usually work late and have to make dinner when you get home. We thought it might be nice for you to have a meal ready. Naomi was speechless. No one had cooked for her in... She couldn't remember how long. Thank you. It smells amazing. Sit down, Mommy, Lena instructed, pulling out a chair. We're taking care of everything. Naomi sat, watching in amazement as her daughter carefully poured water into glasses while Grant drained the pasta. They moved around each other with the easy familiarity of people who had spent the day getting to know each other. Lena was a wonderful hostess, Grant told her as he served the pasta. She showed me her books, taught me how to play Candyland, and helped me figure out how to work your coffee maker. Did you have fun, honey? Naomi asked Lena. So much fun, Lena enthused. Mr. Ellison doesn't know how to play Candyland right, though he keeps trying to make strategies, Grant laughed. I'm learning that some games are about the journey, not winning. As they ate, Lena chattered about their day, how they'd read 3 chapters of Charlotte's Web together, how Grant had let her help make the sauce, how they'd watched her favorite cartoon, and Grant had asked so many questions about the characters that Lena had to explain everything. Naomi found herself relaxing, enjoying the simple pleasure of a family dinner she hadn't had to prepare after a long day of work. Grant was different here than he had been in the coffee shop, more at ease, less formal. He made silly jokes that had Lena giggling, and he listened intently when either of them spoke, as if nothing was more important than what they had to say. After dinner, Grant insisted on helping with the dishes while Lena got ready for bed. Naomi found herself standing next to him at the sink, drying the plates he washed. Thank you for today, she said quietly. It means more than you know. Grant's hands stilled in the soapy water. I enjoyed it, Naomi, truly. Lena is an amazing kid. She is, Naomi agreed, pride evident in her voice. She gets that from her mother, Grant said, his eyes meeting hers. Naomi looked away, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. You don't really know me. I'd like to, he said simply. Before Naomi could respond, Lena called from the bathroom, Mommy, I need help with my hair. Coming, sweetie. Naomi set down the dish towel, relieved for the interruption. I should help. Her with her bedtime routine, Grant nodded. I'll finish up here. When Naomi returned from tucking Lena in, she found Grant drying the last of the dishes, the kitchen spotless. "She wants you to come say goodnight," Naomi told him, surprised by Lena's request. Grant looked equally surprised but pleased. "Of course." Naomi led him to Lena's small bedroom, where her daughter was sitting up in bed, her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched in her arms. "Good night, Mr. Ellison," Lena said. "Thank you for the spaghetti and for reading with me." "You're very welcome, Lena," Grant replied, his voice gentle. "Thank you for letting me spend the day with you." "Will you come back sometime?" Lena asked hopefully. Grant glanced at Naomi, clearly not wanting to make promises he couldn't keep. "If your mom says it's okay, I'd love to." Naomi found herself nodding. "We'll see, honey, now get some sleep." They left Lena's room, closing the door softly behind them. In the living room, Grant gathered his backpack, preparing to leave. "I can't thank you enough," Naomi said. "Today was a big help." "I meant what I said to Lena," Grant told her. "I'd like to see you both again if you're open to that." Naomi hesitated. Opening their lives to this man meant risk of disappointment, risk of pain. But there was also the possibility of something good, something she hadn't allowed herself to hope for in a long time. "Maybe we could go to the park next weekend," she found herself saying, "if you're not busy with CEO things." Grant's smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds. "I'd clear my schedule for that." As he was about to leave, he paused at the door. "Naomi, I know this is unusual, how we met, me being here today, but I want you to know that I respect your boundaries. There's no pressure, no expectations. I just enjoy being around you and Lena." Naomi studied his face, looking for any sign of deception, but found only sincerity. "Thank you for understanding. This is all new territory for me." "For me too," he admitted. "Good night, Naomi." After he left, Naomi leaned against the closed door, her emotions in turmoil. Part of her wanted to keep her walls firmly in place, to protect herself and Lena from inevitable disappointment. But another part, a part she'd kept buried for years, wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, Grant Ellison was exactly what he seemed. A good man who had entered their lives by chance and chosen to stay by choice. Later that night, as she was getting ready for bed, her phone buzzed with a text from Grant. "Thank you for today. Lena is wonderful and so are you. I'm looking forward to the park next weekend." Naomi found herself smiling as she typed back, "We are too. Good night, Grant." As she set her phone down, Naomi realized something had shifted. For the first time in years, she was allowing someone new into the careful world she had built for herself and Lena. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. What she didn't know was that across town, in his luxury penthouse apartment, Grant was lying awake, thinking about the tiny apartment with mismatched dishes and the two people who had made him feel more at home there than he'd ever felt in his expensive, empty rooms. For both of them, something was beginning. Something neither had been looking for, but that now seemed as inevitable as the sunrise. But shadows from the past were gathering. Naomi's carefully constructed world was about to face a storm, and the foundation she had built would be tested in ways she never imagined. The next few weeks passed in a blur of new routines and unexpected happiness. Grant became a regular presence in Naomi and Lena's lives, helping with school pickups when Naomi worked late, joining them for dinner twice a week, and taking them to the park on Saturdays. Lena had blossomed with the additional attention, proudly showing Grant her schoolwork and teaching him the rules of her made-up games. And Naomi found herself looking forward to his texts, his visits, the sound of his laugh. One Friday evening in late spring, Naomi was preparing dinner while Grant helped Lena with her homework at the kitchen table. The domesticity of the scene struck her. How natural it felt to have him there, how easily he had slipped into their lives. "All done," Lena announced, showing off her completed math worksheet. "Great job," Grant said, giving her a high five. "You're getting really good at these word problems." Lena beamed at the praise. "Can we read now? I want to find out what happens to Harry Potter next." They had started reading the first Harry Potter book together, a chapter each night. It had become their ritual. Lena snuggled between Naomi and Grant on the couch, listening intently as they took turns reading aloud. "After dinner," Naomi promised, stirring the chicken stir-fry on the stove. "Go wash your hands, honey." As Lena skipped off to the bathroom, Grant stood and moved to the kitchen, leaning against the counter next to Naomi. "Need any help?" he asked. "I've got it under control," she replied, though she appreciated the offer. "Thanks for helping her with homework. Those word problems were giving her trouble last week." "She's really smart," Grant said. "She just needed a different way of looking at the problems." Naomi nodded. Well aware of how perceptive Grant had become about her daughter's learning style, it was one of many things she'd grown to appreciate about him, how seriously he took his role in Lena's life. "Naomi," Grant said, his voice softer now that they were alone, "there's something I've been wanting to talk to you about." She looked up, a flicker of anxiety in her chest. Good things in her life had a way of disappearing just when she started to count on them. "What is it?" "I've been offered a chance to expand Elitech to the West Coast. It would mean opening a new headquarters in San Francisco." Naomi's heart sank. "Oh, that's a great opportunity." "It is," Grant agreed. "Professionally, it makes a lot of sense." She nodded, focusing on the food to hide the emotion in her eyes. "When would you leave?" "That's what I want to talk to you about." Grant took a deep breath. "I haven't given them an answer yet because of you and Lena." Naomi stopped stirring and turned to face him fully. "What do you mean?" "These past few weeks have been the happiest of my life," Grant said simply. "Being with you both, becoming part of your lives, it's changed me, Naomi. And the thought of moving across the country, of not seeing you both every day, I can't imagine it." Naomi's pulse quickened. "What are you saying, Grant?" "I'm saying I love you," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "I love Lena too, and I don't want to leave, but I also don't want to pressure you or rush things. I know this has all happened fast, and you've been hurt before." Naomi was speechless. She had known her feelings for Grant were growing deeper, but she hadn't allowed herself to name them, to fully acknowledge what was happening between them. "I don't expect an answer right now," Grant continued when she didn't speak. "I just wanted you to know where I stand. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it." Before Naomi could respond, Lena bounced back into the kitchen. "I'm starving. Is dinner ready?" The moment broken, Naomi turned back to the stove. "Just about, honey." "Can you help set the table?" Throughout dinner, Naomi was quiet, her mind racing. Grant loved her. He was willing to pass up a major career opportunity to stay near her and Lena. It was everything she should want, a good man who cared about both her and her daughter, who wanted to build a future with them. So why was she terrified? Later, after Lena was in bed and Grant had gone home with a gentle, "Think about what I said, no pressure," Naomi sat alone on the couch, trying to sort through her feelings. The truth was, she did love Grant. She loved his kindness, his intelligence, the way he treated Lena with respect and genuine affection. She loved how he never made her feel less than, how he valued her opinions and her strength. But loving someone meant being vulnerable, and vulnerability had cost her dearly in the past. The next morning, Naomi was awakened by her phone ringing. Groggily, she answered it without checking the caller ID. "Hello? Naomi? It's been a long time." She sat bolt upright, instantly awake. She knew that voice. It was one she had hoped never to hear again. "Marcus?" "Yeah, it's me." "How are you?" Marcus Walker, Lena's father, the man who had walked away when Naomi told him she was pregnant, who had never sent a dime in child support or called to check on his daughter in 7 years. "What do you want?" Naomi's voice was cold. "I want to see my daughter," Marcus said. "I've changed, Naomi. I've grown up. I want to be part of Lena's life." "You've had 7 years to be part of her life," Naomi replied, anger rising in her throat. 7 years that you chose to be absent." "I know I messed up," Marcus admitted, "but I want to make it right. I'm back in New York and I've got a good job now. I can help support her." Naomi closed her eyes, a headache forming behind her temples. "Lena doesn't know you, Marcus. You're a stranger to her." "She's my daughter," he insisted. "I have rights." The threat was clear. If Naomi didn't agree to let him see Lena, he could take her to court. She had always feared this day would come, that just when she had built a stable life for her daughter, the past would come crashing back in. "I need time to think about this," she said finally. "And if I agree to let you see her, it would be supervised on my terms." "That's fair," Marcus said, sounding relieved. "I just want a chance, Naomi." After they hung up, Naomi sat on the edge of her bed, trembling. The timing couldn't be worse. Just as she was considering opening her heart to Grant, allowing herself to imagine a future with him, Lena's father had reappeared, threatening the stability she had worked so hard to maintain. And as if that wasn't enough, when she checked her email, there was a message from her mother, the woman who had turned her back on Naomi when she decided to keep her baby. "Naomi," the email read, "I've been thinking about you and my granddaughter a lot lately. I know it's been years, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I would like to meet Lena. Your father is gone now, and I realize how much I've missed by letting his prejudices dictate my actions. Please consider letting me be part of your lives again. Love, Mom." Naomi closed her laptop, overwhelmed. After years of it being just her and Lena against the world, suddenly everyone wanted in. Grant with his declaration of love, Marcus with his belated desire to be a father, her mother with her too late apologies. She needed advice, perspective. She needed a friend. Without thinking too much about it, she texted Grant, "Can we talk? Something's happened." His response was immediate, "I'll be right over." 20 minutes later, Grant was sitting beside her on the couch while Lena played in her room. Naomi had shown him the email from her mother and told him about Marcus's call. "Why now?" she asked, more to herself than to Grant. "Why are they all coming back now, just when things were getting good?" Grant took her hand, his touch gentle. "I don't know. Life has a strange way of timing things. Marcus threatened to take me to court if I don't let him see Lena," Naomi said, fear evident in her voice. "What if he tries to get custody? He has money now," he said. "He could afford a good lawyer." "And what about your mother?" Grant asked. "Are you considering letting her meet Lena?" Naomi sighed. "I don't know. She abandoned me when I needed her most. She chose my father's approval over supporting her own daughter, but she's Lena's only grandparent now." "Whatever you decide, I'm here," Grant promised. "About all of it. Marcus, your mother, my job offer. Whatever you need, however much time you need to figure things out." Naomi looked at him, really looked at him. This man who had entered their lives by chance and chosen to stay by choice. "I need to be honest with you, Grant. I'm scared. I'm scared of letting you in completely, of depending on you because everyone I've ever depended on has let me down." "I understand that fear," Grant said softly. "And I can't promise I'll never make mistakes or disappoint you. But I can promise I'll never willingly hurt you or Lena. I can promise I'll always try to do right by you both." "I believe you," Naomi said, surprising herself with the realization that she truly did. "And I love you too. I think I have. For a while now. I just didn't want to admit it because it terrified me." Grant's face lit up with joy, but before he could respond, they heard Lena's voice from the doorway. "Mommy, who's Marcus?" Naomi and Grant turned to see Lena standing there, clutching her stuffed rabbit. She must have overheard part of their conversation. "Come here, baby," Naomi said, patting the couch between her and Grant. Lena climbed up, looking curiously from her mother to Grant. "Is Marcus a bad man?" Naomi took a deep breath. "No, honey. He's your father." Lena's eyes widened. "My father? But you said my father went away before I was born." "That's right," Naomi confirmed. "But now he wants to meet you." Lena was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "Do I have to meet him?" "No," Naomi said firmly. "Not if you don't want to." "Would he live with us?" Lena asked, a hint of worry in her voice. "No, definitely not," Naomi assured her. "He would just visit sometimes if that's something you wanted." Lena leaned against Grant's arm, seeking comfort in his familiar presence. "I already have Grant. He reads to me and helps with my homework and makes spaghetti." Grant's eyes met Naomi's over Lena's head, both of them struck by the simple truth in the child's words. "Grant is very special to us," Naomi agreed carefully. "But Marcus is your biological father. That means he's the reason you have those beautiful brown eyes and that dimple in your cheek." Lena considered this, then asked the question Naomi had been dreading. If he's my father, why didn't he want to know me before? Naomi's heart broke at the confusion in her daughter's voice. Sometimes adults make mistakes, honey. Big mistakes. Marcus made a mistake by not being in your life, but he says he wants to try now. And there's someone else who wants to meet you too, Naomi continued, deciding to get it all out at once. My mother, your grandmother. I have a grandma? Lena's eyes lit up with excitement. Unlike the concept of a father, which was abstract to her, the idea of a grandmother was something she understood from her friends and books. Yes, you do, Naomi said, but I haven't seen her in a long time. Why not? Naomi sighed. How to explain family rejection to a 7-year-old? Sometimes families disagree about important things, and they stop talking to each other. But now she wants to be part of our lives again. Lena nodded, as if this made perfect sense to her. Like when I got mad at Zoe at school and didn't talk to her for a whole day, but then we said sorry and became friends again. Naomi smiled despite her turmoil. Something like that, yes. I think I want to meet my grandma, Lena decided, but I don't know about my father. She said the word carefully, as if testing how it felt in her mouth. You don't have to decide right now, Grant assured her. Your mom and I will make sure you're safe and comfortable whatever happens. Lena looked up at him, her expression serious. Are you going to be my new dad? The question hung in the air, loaded with implications. Grant looked to Naomi for guidance. Grant cares about us very much, Naomi said carefully. About both of us. I do, Grant affirmed. More than anything. But what happens next is up to you and your mom. Lena seemed satisfied with this answer. Can we have pancakes for breakfast? The ones with blueberries that Grant makes. Just like that, with a child's ability to move on from difficult topics, Lena had shifted the conversation. Naomi and Grant exchanged relieved smiles. Pancakes sound perfect, Grant agreed. Why don't you help me get the ingredients ready? As Lena and Grant moved to the kitchen, Naomi watched them together. Her daughter and the man who had become so important to both of them. The road ahead would be complicated, with Marcus's reappearance and her mother's attempt at reconciliation. But for the first time, Naomi didn't feel like she had to face it all alone. Later that day, after a breakfast of blueberry pancakes and a trip to the park, Naomi made 2 difficult phone calls. The first was to Marcus, agreeing to a supervised meeting with Lena the following weekend. Thank you, Naomi, he said, sounding genuinely grateful. I know I don't deserve this chance. No, you don't, she agreed bluntly. But Lena deserves to know her father, if you're truly committed to being in her life consistently from now on. But let me be clear. If you disappear again, if you hurt her in any way, that's it. You won't get another chance. The second call was to her mother, inviting her to visit the following Sunday. I've missed you so much, her mother said, her voice breaking. Thank you for this opportunity, Naomi. I'm doing this for Lena, Naomi said, not quite ready to forgive. She should know her grandmother. I understand, her mother replied softly. I have a lot to make up for. That evening, as Lena got ready for bed, Naomi and Grant sat at the kitchen table, discussing the future. I called San Francisco today, Grant said. I turned down the offer. Naomi looked surprised. Grant, that's a huge opportunity. Are you sure? He nodded, reaching for her hand. I've built my company from nothing once. If I want to expand to the West Coast, I can do it without relocating. What I can't do is replace what I've found here with you and Lena. And what exactly have you found? Naomi asked, needing to hear him say it. Family, Grant said simply. A place where I belong. A love I never thought I'd find. Tears welled in Naomi's eyes. We come with complications, she warned. Ex-drama, family baggage, a 7-year-old who asks difficult questions. Grant smiled. I wouldn't have it any other way. Mommy, Lena called from her bedroom. I'm ready for my story. Coming, honey, Naomi called back, then turned to Grant. This isn't going to be easy, you know. Marcus could still cause problems, and my mother, well, that's a whole other story. Nothing worth having comes easy, Grant said, standing and pulling her to her feet. Whatever happens, we'll face it. Together. As they walked to Lena's room hand in hand, Naomi felt a peace she hadn't experienced in years. Yes, there were challenges ahead. Marcus's return, her mother's attempted reconciliation, the inevitable complications of blending their lives together. But for the first time, she wasn't facing those challenges alone. 2 weeks later, they sat in a lawyer's office, tension thick in the air. Marcus had decided that supervised visits weren't enough. He wanted partial custody of Lena. His lawyer argued that as Lena's biological father, he had rights that couldn't be denied. Naomi sat rigid with fear, remembering all too well how Marcus had abandoned them, how he had made promises before and broken everyone. The thought of Lena spending weekends with him, out of Naomi's protection, was terrifying. Grant sat beside her, steady and supportive. He had hired the best family lawyer in New York for her, refusing to let her face this battle with anything less than the strongest defense. Ms. Carter has raised this child alone for 7 years, her lawyer argued. Mr. Walker has provided no support, financial or emotional, during that time. His sudden interest in parenting doesn't erase his abandonment. Marcus's lawyer countered, "My client has acknowledged his mistakes and is seeking to make amends. He has a stable job now, a suitable home, and he is Lena's father. The court typically favors biological parents having access to their children." The preliminary hearing dragged on, with both sides presenting their cases. Naomi felt her hopes sinking as the judge seemed receptive to Marcus's claims of reformation and his right to know his daughter. Outside the courthouse, waiting for the next hearing date to be set, Naomi finally broke down. What if he gets custody, Grant? What if Lena has to spend weekends with him? He doesn't know her, doesn't understand her needs, her fears. "We'll fight this," Grant promised, "every step of the way. And if it would help, there's something else we could consider." "What?" Naomi asked, desperate for any solution. "Marriage," Grant said, taking her hands in his. "If we were married, if I legally adopted Lena, it would strengthen our case." Naomi stared at him, shocked. "Are you proposing to me because of a custody battle?" "No," Grant said firmly. "I'm suggesting that we move up something I was already planning to do. I love you, Naomi. I love Lena. I want to spend my life with you both. The timing is being forced by circumstances, but the intention was always there." Naomi was torn. She loved Grant, and she knew he loved her and Lena, but marriage as a legal strategy felt wrong, even for the right reasons. "I can't let you fight this for me," she said quietly. "I need to face it myself." Grant's eyes never left hers. "I don't want to fight for you, Naomi. I want to fight with you." Those words, so simple yet so profound, broke through the last of her defenses. This man, who had found a lost lunchbox and delivered it personally, who had read bedtime stories and made blueberry pancakes, who had loved her daughter as if she were his own. He wasn't trying to take over her battles. He was offering to stand beside her, to face whatever came together. "Yes," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Yes to all of it. Fighting together, marriage, family. Yes." Grant pulled her into his arms, holding her tight as Lena watched from the car, her small face pressed against the window. When they broke apart, Naomi wiped her tears and smiled at her daughter, motioning for her to join them. Lena ran to them, and Grant lifted her up, the three of them embracing on the courthouse steps. "Are we going to be okay?" Lena asked, sensing the emotions swirling around her. Naomi looked at Grant, then back at her daughter. "Yes, baby, we're going to be more than okay." 1 month later, in a small ceremony in Central Park, Naomi and Grant were married. Lena served as flower girl, beaming with pride as she scattered rose petals along the path. Naomi's mother sat in the front row, grateful to be included, working slowly to rebuild the relationship she had damaged years ago. Marcus was there too, having eventually agreed to regular visitation rather than shared custody. Seeing Naomi's happiness with Grant, seeing how Lena thrived in their family unit, he had finally put his daughter's needs before his own desires. As Naomi and Grant exchanged vows, promising to love and support each other through whatever life brought their way, Naomi thought about the journey that had led them here. A lost lunchbox, a kind gesture, a leap of faith. Their story wasn't perfect, There had been pain and fear, doubt and difficulty. There would be more challenges ahead, more storms to weather, but they would face them together, as a family bound not by blood but by choice, by love, by the place they had made for each other at their table. As they walked back down the aisle, hand in hand with Lena between them, Naomi knew that some things were worth the risk. Some people were worth opening your heart to. And sometimes the family you build is even stronger than the one you're born into. That night, as they tucked Lena into bed in their new home, a spacious apartment with room for all of them and their dreams, she looked up at them with sleepy eyes. "I'm glad you found my lunchbox, Grant," she said. "Otherwise you might never have found us." Grant smiled, brushing a curl from her forehead. "It was the best thing I ever found." Later, as Naomi and Grant stood in the doorway of their daughter's room, for Lena was truly theirs now, in heart if not yet legally, Naomi leaned against her husband's shoulder. "I never thought I'd have this," she admitted softly. "A partner, a complete family, someone to share the burden and the joy." "You deserve it all," Grant whispered, pressing a kiss to her temple, "and so much more." As they closed Lena's door and walked hand in hand to their own room, Naomi felt the last of her walls crumble away. The past would always be part of her story, the pain, the struggle, the years of doing it all alone. But it no longer defined her future. Her future was here, with the man who had picked up a lost lunchbox and found a family, with the daughter who had taught them both what love really meant, with the life they were building together. One day, one challenge, one joy at a time, a place at their table, a place in each other's hearts, a place to call home.